Howdy everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to go over the 4 universal rules of firearms safety. I have my Glock 19 with my yellow training barrel in here. I like this thing because it still allows me to manipulate the gun. I just cannot load any ammunition in there. So other than that, I like it, and also lets me know that what condition the gun is in. So we're going to talk about the 4 universal rules of firearms safety. And where these come from is Colonel Jeff Cooper. I imagine most of y'all, if you've been to a gun store or a gun range, you go in there and on the wall they have a list of all these different rules. I think the most rules that anybody has seen in a gun range is like 54 or 56. And you got to remember that they are there. Rules exist because somebody at some point broke them, regardless of how stupid they are. And those rules exist to essentially keep that gun range out of litigation. So those, however many they are, they can be drilled down into these 4 firearm safety rules. I consider them lifestyle rules. I believe that you need to live these 4 rules regardless of if you're at the range, if you're carrying on a daily basis. So the first rule, treat all guns as if they are always loaded all the time. I typically tell people if all guns are always loaded all the time and you treat them as such, then everything will be fine. But also, I want to expound on that. John Johnston says to handle all firearms according to the circumstance and the conditions. So we treat all firearms as if they're always loaded. We cannot take for granted when we go pick up a handgun, whether it's ours, whether it's been in the safe, whether a friend is handing it to us, we cannot take for granted that it is unloaded. So we need to know if the gun is unloaded or not. You need to be able to properly clear the firearm in the event that you need to do any type of maintenance. And then when we talk about circumstances, dry practice. Dry practice, you're using a firearm in your home. You are pressing the trigger. But knowing the condition of your gun and the circumstance in which you are using it, that's what that applies to. So treat all firearms as if they're always loaded, but also know the circumstance and the condition in which you are using it in. Number 2, I call this the Jedi Rule. So and that rule is never let your muzzle cross anything you're not willing to destroy. I know y'all probably heard this as keep your guns pointed in a safe direction or never point your guns at anybody else. Yeah, that's essentially what it is. But never let your gun point at anything you are not willing to destroy. So if you're doing some dry practice, you don't necessarily want to use like a computer screen or whatnot because you wouldn't necessarily want to destroy that. And for the love of God, don't point it at somebody. But the Jedi Rule, so pretend at the end of my muzzle, I've got a lightsaber. And anything that that muzzle or that lightsaber crosses, I'm going to cut in half. So just remember muzzle discipline, muzzle awareness. Once again, I'm going to go back to John Johnston, who does a great job of kind of expanding on this. John says pick the safest direction for your muzzle given the situation and the safest route for it to get there. So let's say I have somebody I need to shoot over here and somebody behind me as well. So I'm shooting over here, but there's a bunch of people over here that I don't want to shoot at. So if I need to go from point A to point B, what's a good direction for my gun? Either up or down. So like I said, given the situation, know the safest direction that your pistol is oriented. Number 3, keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on target and you are ready to shoot. I typically tell people your finger should be in register, not indexed on the gun. In register, which essentially means at the chamber where your barrel and your slide meet up. So keep your finger off of the trigger until your sights are on target and you are ready to shoot. I typically tell people if I'm on the target, my finger is on the trigger. If I come off the target, my finger is off the trigger. So on, off. The first instructor I really did anything with was my CHL instructor back in 2012. And he essentially said, and this kind of sums up this rule number 3, keep your finger off the trigger, keep your damn finger off the trigger, keep your damn finger off the damn trigger. So finger off the trigger till your sights are on target and you have made the decision to shoot. This is, especially with new shooters, this is one of the most critical and one of the most probably neglected and abused rules. So be aware of your trigger finger. Last, number 4, identify your target. So know your target, what's in front and what's behind. Identify your target. So we as civilians, we have to know what we are shooting at 100% of the time. We do not shoot at sounds. We do not shoot at shadows, shapes, silhouettes, anything like that. We have to 100% positively identify our target. So know your target, what's in front, what's behind it. That target that you are shooting at, that also needs to be your backstop. A lot of times you'll hear the proverbial bus with orphans and nuns behind the person that you're trying to shoot. Nobody wants to shoot a bus full of orphans and nuns, so you might need to adjust your angles or levels in order to change that backstop. But identify your target 100%. I know what you are shooting at. And then know what's in front. So if there's somebody in front of you, you might have to move to the side to change angles to get a good shot. And know what's behind your target that you are shooting. Remember, also as civilians, we are responsible for every single round that comes out of that gun. Every single round that comes out of that gun needs to hit its intended target. And then to kind of top it off, this isn't one of the 4 firearm safety rules, but we got to remember with gun safety, we are trying to prevent unauthorized access to our firearm. We want to keep guns from those who we don't want to give access to, whatever means that is, whether that's keeping that gun on you all the time or when it's not on you, sticking it in a safe or whatnot. So preventing unauthorized access to your firearm. I appreciate you guys for watching. Remember, if you carry a gun or anytime you go shoot, these 4 safety rules, the 54 rules on the shooting range, they can be drilled down to these 4, and as long as you don't break these 4, you're good to go. So I appreciate you guys for watching. Be safe, be smart, be skilled. Catch you on the next video.